want to go ahead and replace this front hydraulic engine mount located just to the right of your front catalytic converter. Want to go ahead and open up your hood, and we're going to start by removing our upper cover here. I'm going to go ahead and use our Phillips head screwdriver, pop out that center, and then pop out the plastic clip. We're missing a couple here, and if it doesn't have the Phillips head screw, you can usually press in on the center. You can hear that pop in. Use your trim tool and go ahead and pop that button out. Repeat that process through the rest of these clips. Once you have all those clips out, you'll just want to go ahead and lift up on this cover and set it aside. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to remove the 2 bolts right here holding our intake tube. Now on the side of our air intake right here is going to be a couple vacuum ports or vacuum hoses. Just pop those out of the clips. And on the side right here, there's going to be 2 plastic retainers. On the bottom side, there's going to be 2 little pinch tabs on there. I'm going to go ahead and use our needle nose pliers and undo those clips. Just going to pinch on that and push that up and out. And do the same for the other one underneath here. And go ahead and remove this piece, set it aside. I want to go ahead and remove our radiator support here. There's a series of 10mm bolts we're going to go ahead and remove. Now we're removing our hood latch as well. Just going to loosen that and get in the back here. This is going to unbolt the center beam from the radiator support. On the ends, we have a couple bolts. We want to go ahead and unbolt our horns from the support as well. So let's go ahead and get those bolts out. These are a 12mm gear wrench to go ahead and loosen and remove these. And just let the horns droop on down there. They're not going to go anywhere. If you want to, you can disconnect the electrical connectors from them and put them on your bench. And right here on the top, there's a plastic clip holding our hood release cable to the bottom side. So we're just going to use our needle nose pliers. Gently pinch that and drop that down in. Go ahead and lift up on our support. With your hood open, you want to go ahead and identify the negative side of that battery. That's this one right here. Let's go ahead and use our 10mm socket. We're going to go ahead and loosen and disconnect the ground side. Slide that terminal off and set that aside. Using your plastic trim tool remover, go ahead and remove this button right here. Pop out the center, remove that clip. Remove these 2 screws, this one here. And this one here. Across the front, we're going to remove our 10mm screws. Good. Remove your shield, set that aside. Now with the splash shield removed, we're going to go ahead and access our drain plug right here on the lower part of our radiator. This little knob right here, you want to turn it counterclockwise. And as this comes out, we should start to get some coolant out of here. Let this drain into your catch can or your bucket. Once this is drained out, we'll go ahead and proceed back to the top of the engine, working up there. Now that our coolant is drained out, we can go ahead and tighten up the drain plug here. Once that bottoms out, just give it a little bit more, make sure that's snug. On the top here, I want to go ahead and remove our expansion tank. There's two 10mm bolts, one right here and one right on the other side. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove those. Once we have those removed, you now want to go ahead and disconnect the expansion tank hose to the neck on the radiator. You can simply grab that, give it a couple twists, and slide that off. Now if yours doesn't want to come off, you can use a pair of pliers, grab that hose, give it a couple twists, and then pop that thing right off. Once that's off, take the tank, remove it, and set it aside. With the expansion tank gone, I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall the bolts. That way there, I know where they're at. I want to go ahead and disconnect your upper radiator hose. Using a pair of pliers, go ahead and pinch this clamp, open that up, and just go ahead and slide that down the radiator hose. We're going to try and go ahead and spin this off the radiator. There might be a little bit of residual coolant that might come out of this here. But seeing how we already drained it, this shouldn't be much. Twist off the hose. And we're just going to fold this back and out of the way. We have the lower portion to our air intake tube. Just going to grab this little plastic piece here, twist that, pop it out, set that aside. Now, along our cooling fans here, we're going to have harnesses with plastic clips and tabs and buttons. Let's go ahead, and you're going to use a couple tools. You can use your trim tool. Pop a couple of these off. Go ahead and grab connectors here. Push on that tab. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this here. Pop that aside. Now some of these clips, you're going to use a pair of needle nose pliers. Just going to get behind it, pinch the little tabs, and go ahead and work that off. Go ahead and just tuck this aside like that. And we're going to continue across, disconnecting any harnesses and connectors. Along the passenger side, you have your lower radiator hose. It's actually held into the cooling fan by a plastic clip. I'm just going to go ahead and grab that hose and just kind of flex that out. And just disconnect that from the cooling fan. Then you can see once that's out, you can just put that hose to the side, like so. Across the top of your cooling fans is going to be these plastic clips here holding our fans to our radiator. You're going to pinch these tabs in, and you want to go ahead and push out on the fans. We're going to use our trim tool and apply a little bit of pressure here. I'm just using pliers here, a little bit stronger to go ahead and flex that in. And I'm using my plastic trim tool here to go ahead and work that. Here we go. Go ahead and get that last clip. Once that pops out, we're going to try and go ahead and lift up on our radiator. Now, as you're doing this, you want to go ahead and pay attention to any of the harnesses, any connectors that might be in the way, and slowly lift this up and out. Go ahead and set that aside. Now I want to go ahead and disconnect our O2 sensor here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop our upper radiator hose up and out of the way. Follow this gray connector back, and it is located right back here. Now I'm using a pocket screwdriver. I'm going in underneath the front here because the push tab on the back side is really, really hard. So if you can get in the front, you can pry up on this little tab. Using a pair of long pliers here, and I'm just going to grab the connector and slide that out. At this point here, go ahead and fold up that hose again. Tuck that up. On our bracket right here on our front mount is 3 14mm bolts. Let's go ahead and break those free. I'm not going to remove them yet. And there's one underneath here. Use our 17mm socket with our swivel. Once we get these two lower bolts out, we're just going to unthread this upper one here, probably about halfway. We want to keep that mount attached to the block right now. Using our 14mm gear wrench, we're going to go ahead and loosen this bolt here on our upper torque strut. On the bottom side of our torque strut, there's a 17mm bolt right here. And use our pry bar between the bracket and the motor right here behind the torque strut. I'm just going to work these bolts out. I'm just basically just shifting the motor just a little bit to get these bolts and everything to line up and pop everything right out. All right, we get the lower bolt out. On the bottom side, you're going to use a 10mm socket. Remove this bolt right here holding the solenoid in place, or our switching valve. Right beside it is a hose right here. We want to go ahead and disconnect that off the switching valve. On the bottom side of this mount here, there's going to be 3 14mm nuts we want to remove. There's one here. There's one inside this frame port right here. And then there's one right on the back side here. Let's go ahead and loosen these. Now, using a pry bar, we're going to go ahead and rock that motor up a little bit. And we want to go ahead and loosen this bolt right here off of this bracket. Grab that motor mount, slide that up and out. Go ahead and lower the mount down into position. Get the studs drop down into the frame and rock the motor up with that motor mount and that bracket. I'm go ahead and lift up that motor with that pry bar. Let me get that set in position there. With this bolt installed right here, let's go ahead and rock that motor up a little bit. We're going to try and get our upper bolt lined up. Let's go ahead and get the other bolts started here. Now, with all 3 of those bolts started here, we can go ahead and release our pry bar. We're going to go ahead and tighten down these 3 bolts for the bracket. Then we'll go ahead and line up that center bolt and get that started into the top of our mount. Using the pry bar on the front side of the motor there, we're just going to go ahead and lift this up. Get this bolt started in there, a few threads. And once you're sure you have that started, a few threads, and go ahead and release that pry bar, and we'll go ahead and start to tighten that down. I'm going to get install the 3 nuts on the lower part of the motor mount. Let's go ahead and tighten these down. With those 3 tight, let's go ahead and bring our bracket up here. Let's get our bolt started in this bracket. All right, let's go ahead and snug that down. Right, once that bolt bottoms out, just a little bit more, I want to make sure that's snug, and we'll install our hose right here onto our switching valve. Getting torque down the nuts to 38 foot-pounds. Install your torque strut. Press that into there. Get our bolt started a couple threads. And grab the motor, just rock it gently. You should be able to get the horizontal bolt lined up from the strut to the motor. With that started a few threads, spin that bracket around. We're going to get our lower bolt started. I'm going to torque this one down to 38 foot-pounds. Torque this one down to 28 foot-pounds. I'm going to torque this one down to 32 foot-pounds. Okay, run that connector over. Line that up, push it in, and feel it clip into place. And just secure our little strap here. Go ahead and drop our plastic shield down inside here. Once that's all snapped into place, we'll go ahead and bring our radiator back. We'll go ahead and drop our fan in. I'm going to go ahead and lower our fan down into place. Working that carefully around all of our other components here. As we lower the fan down into position and it drops down into place, we do want to pay attention to the position of our lower radiator hose. That needs to go into the plastic clip on the side of the fan. the bottom of the cooling fans drop onto the post at the bottom and lock into place. Once that's in, we'll go ahead and squeeze our fan onto our lock tabs here. Once that's locked into place, let's go ahead and install our wiring harness here. Bring our radiator hose down and over, get that lined up, work that onto the top of the radiator. Let's go ahead and install our expansion tank here. I'm going to remove our bolts that we had just placed back in here for storage. I'm going to put this pin or plastic post right on the top of the fans here. And go ahead and install your bolts. Just going to snug those by hand for now. Go ahead and install your expansion tank hose there. Let's go ahead and just snug down gently the expansion tank bolts. Once it's bottom out, you're pretty much good. I'm going to lower our radiator support down into place. Go ahead and start to install some of your bolts here. Go ahead and snug this down into place. Once that bolt bottoms out, just a little bit more. I'll loosen that one there and push this bracket down. Once that bolt bottoms out, just a little bit more. Let's continue through the rest. Let's go ahead and line up our hood latch here. I'll get these bolts started. All right, once we get all three of those started, let's go ahead and snug those down. Install our horns. Now once that's tight, I'm going to go ahead and repeat for the other side. Go ahead and snake our air intake tube down. The best way for you to get the air intake tube attached to the bottom of the airbox is to reach your hand down inside underneath the airbox. You can actually feel the plastic tube and the port on the bottom of the box feed the tube into it. You'll know it goes in because then this will snap right in like so. I want to install our intake here. Slide that onto the air box. The bottom should line up with the bottom of that air intake tube. We're going to install our vacuum hose here. And on the right side, we have two clips for vacuum hoses here and here. Pop those in. Let's get our hardware installed right here. Go ahead and snug down these bolts. Now this is just plastic. You don't have to make it super tight. Once that bolt bottoms out, just a little bit more. Bolt is bottomed out. That's good. Go ahead and use your pliers. Work your hose clamp back up into place for the upper radiator here. I'm going to put on our cover right here. Once we have a radiator cover installed, let's go ahead and install our plastic push pins. And go ahead and install our connector. Just press this on. You'll hear it and feel it snap into place. And we'll just continue this across the whole top. Let's go ahead and install our splash guard here. In the center back here. Now these here you just want to snug down. They're literally just holding pieces of plastic together. Once you have all those secure, you're all set. Go ahead and open up your radiator cap. I want to go ahead and fill up our radiator. I'm going to use the recommended coolant for this vehicle. I'm going to pop open our expansion tank here as well. And we'll go ahead and fill up the radiator until it's full. Once your radiator is full, go ahead and install your radiator cap. You want to come on over here to our expansion tank. I want to go ahead and fill this up to the full mark on the tank. Once this is done, you want to go ahead and put that cap on. You want to go ahead and start up the vehicle, get up to operating temperature. This could take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. Let that thermostat open up. You want to go ahead and check that fluid. Now the radiator itself and the engine will be taking coolant from the expansion tank. So once you operate the vehicle and the thermostat opens up, you'll probably watch the coolant drop down below low. Go ahead and top it off through here. Never open up the radiator cap after the vehicle has been operated and hot. So you always want to fill through this here. And go and install your engine cover. Take your ground terminal, line this up, and let's go ahead and snug down that nut.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.